What is up, everybody? It is Wednesday, November 9th, and this is Casual Wrestling Daily, the daily pro wrestling news live show on YouTube where we discuss everything that is going on in the world of WWE and AEW. If you enjoy the content and you are feeling a little bit oozy, you are welcome to go ahead and click the link in the description of this video to donate a couple of dollars. If not, that's okay. Just sit back and enjoy the next 15 to 20 minutes of pro wrestling talk. As always, if you don't know, now you know. I am the Notorious Nerdy D, aka the voice of the casual wrestling cult and host of the Casual Wrestling Community channel. It is season 1 of casual wrestling content, which means every Wednesday you can expect an episode of WWE in review, and every Friday you can get the the Casual Wrestling Podcast at 5 p.m. for your weekend listening enjoyment. Remember that we are on patreon.com/the Casual Wrestling Show. It is free to follow. That is where we post all of the channel and community updates. So make sure to please join. It is 100% free to join, and if you do become a Patreon, you can be shouted out on every episode, like this week's Patreon producers. It's Zenny and LGRSM. Without further ado, let's get into the top 5 things that I think you guys need to know about today in professional wrestling, and we will start up with a follow-up to yesterday's topic about Theory cashing in his Money in the Bank. There's been a little bit to add to that here. So after Theory failed to cash in his Money in the Bank on Monday Night Raw, the main consensus from fans was that Triple H was burying him. Theory finally broke his silence on Tuesday, posting a seemingly positive tweet, "I'll never stop, and that's all day." My question is Triple H actually burying Austin Theory, or is there more to the plan here that we don't actually know about? And what I will tell you guys is I'm going to stick to this idea that Theory basically had no path forward that worked with the Money in the Bank briefcase. I stated yesterday, and I'll kind of go on record today, there was a plan behind what happened. Now, I don't think it translated well. I don't think it came off the way Triple H wanted it to come off. I really do believe Triple H was trying to beat into our heads as fans that the United States title is now the secondary major title. I think for the foreseeable future, we are not splitting up the undisputed World Heavyweight Championship. So that title is one title, and I think that Triple H wants us to believe as fans that the United States title is number 2. I think that he thought by having Theory try to cash in his Money in the Bank on that title, that it would make us feel like, oh, that's a legitimate major title. That if Theory is willing to cash in his briefcase, that has to be a major title. If we look at Theory, though, he seems to be in good spirits. It doesn't seem like he's disgruntled. He doesn't seem mad at management. I think Theory knows he's on a collision course that heads to WrestleMania 39 in a match against John Cena. And like I said yesterday, and I'll reiterate this today, I just don't think that Theory winning any of the titles is a bigger push for him in his career than him ultimately going over John Cena at WrestleMania. I think, to me, that is a bigger accomplishment. I think it will be seen in the long term as a bigger accomplishment. And I think that right now we will begin to see the rebuilding of Austin Theory. We'll begin to see the rebuilding of his character, because now, as long as he held that Money in the Bank briefcase, he couldn't be seen as too credible of a threat to people like Roman Reigns, because then we would start asking too many questions. So I think now that they get the Money in the Bank briefcase out of his hand, I believe you'll start to see a little bit of a push for Austin Theory, less of a bearing, and we'll start to see them rebuild his character around the idea that it's moving towards Theory and Cena at WrestleMania. I don't think that he's out of the United States title picture by any means. I think that he'll stick around. I think he could have multiple matches with Seth Rollins. I think especially without holding that briefcase, he just becomes more dangerous and more unpredictable. He was a little bit of a goofball when he was holding the briefcase, and I think now we can start to rebuild him in the way that we all kind of want Austin Theory to be built. I think that Vince McMahon did more harm than good for Austin Theory. When Austin Theory first made his call up to the WWE roster, I think there was a lot of potential there, and I think a lot of people who didn't watch NXT were surprised by his athleticism, his look, his gimmick. It all worked, and then Vince kind of took him under his shoulder, or under his arm, under his wing, and it kind of created this antagonist feeling towards him, where it was like, oh, this is the chosen one. We don't really want to get behind this. This is another Roman Reigns. They're going to shove him down our throat. And so I think Triple H is having to go back and kind of undo the last year of Austin Theory that might have got him a little bit off track. I did see that Baron Corbin took to Twitter and invited Austin Theory to join the failed Money in the Bank club with him and John Cena, which I thought was funny. A lot of you guys yesterday, when I posted the question on TikTok and I asked, was it the worst cash-in of all time? It was split between, yes, this was the worst cash-in of all time, and no, Baron Corbin had the worst cash-in of all time. I tend to side on the Baron Corbin. I think that while this was a little bit confusing, I don't know that this was wrong. I just think that the way the language and the way they portrayed this, I don't think it came off the way Triple H intended it to come off. I think, though, in the moment, while it felt like a bad cash-in, I think probably post WrestleMania 39, when we look back and we look at the course that Theory takes after this event of a failed cash-in, I think we'll look back and go, this was probably what was best at the time for business. Let's move on to story number 2 here. According to Brian Alvarez, WWE is planning for some craziness for the War Games matches at Survivor Series. This is because WWE needs more footage for video packages featuring the match. Most of the footage they currently have features NXT superstars and superstars that are no longer in the company. Question here. Will Survivor Series be Triple H's premium live event that I think gets him back on track? And let me explain what I mean when I say that. I think that the last 2 premium live events, Crown Jewel and Extreme Rules, while not bad events, I don't think they match the level of intensity and fire that Triple H kind of came out of the gates with. Now, I know SummerSlam wasn't fully a Triple H production. We have to give a little bit of that build and credit to Vince McMahon. We can't completely turn it over, but I think some of the changes that were made last minute with Damage Control and possibly Brock Lesnar lifting the ring up, I believe those were Triple H moves to forward that a premium live event that really nobody had big expectations for ended up being possibly one of the best of the year. And so then we talk about Clash of the Castle, which probably is my favorite premium live event of the year so far. Those 2 premium live events were from start to finish pretty damn good. Then we got to move on to Extreme Rules and Crown Jewel. 2 events that I don't think they were bad by any standards. I think using the Triple H measuring stick, they weren't complete nights. They had good matches. They just weren't complete nights. And I think that Triple H is going to swing for the fences at Survivor Series War Games. I think this feels like one of the first premium live events that he can make his own. This is not something that WWE did in the past on the main roster. It was an effective tool that he used in NXT that was well received by most wrestling fans. So to move this into the main roster, it does feel like a very Triple H move. Feels like a very anti-Vince McMahon move. It feels like something that he can leave a stamp on just basically the 2022 premium live event schedule by doing something big. Now, this idea that the event is built around capturing footage That's interesting to me. Now, Brian Alvarez says they need a lot of crazy. I get you got to build a catalog of footage, but does WWE forget so quickly that they own the WCW library and they could really lay into that here? Like, you could go back and build this idea around, not around like NXT War Games. You could build this around, this is the return of the WCW style of War Games. So sometimes I wonder if they forget, is it just, they're just not willing to promote that footage on like mainstream WWE TV to say like, this isn't our idea. This is a WCW idea. I think that, to me, I think that WWE has this mentality that even things we didn't create, if we can create the illusion that we created them, it makes us feel better. And the other question about War Games is Roman Reigns going to be available? Will Roman Reigns show up? Or is this the mandatory 2-month break that Roman Reigns takes and we don't see him again to what? Royal Rumble? That's a long break. Right now we're looking, this is the last scheduled premium live event of 2022. Let that sink in just a little bit. We canceled day one. So from here till Royal Rumble, this is what we have. And so does Roman show up to give us one more Roman Reigns moment? Does Roman take the next 3 months off? Are they going to add an event around Christmas time? Maybe a TLC or something like that. It's interesting. Like this is a little bit of an unknown that we're walking into post Survivor Series. And so that is why the importance of like elevating the United States Championship. We could go 3 months. There is a reality where we go 3 months without seeing the WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion, undisputed, whatever the fuck they call it. Like, let that sink in a little bit. That is wild. So Survivor Series will need to be a little bit over the top, and then WWE is going to have to figure out what they're going to do in the next 3 months to build up and keep people interested through what is a holiday season that there's a lot of things going on that can take your mind off of pro wrestling. Third story of the day here. Oh, this is interesting. Logan Paul is wasting no time getting back to training after suffering serious injuries during his match against Roman Reigns at WWE Crown Jewel. The Maverick revealed on social media that he tore his meniscus, MCL, and potentially his ACL halfway through the match with Reigns. He'll be out of the ring for some time. While he recovers, but Paul is already back in the gym rehabbing. He's expecting to miss 6 to 8 months of action, which means he most likely won't be able to compete at WrestleMania 39 in April. Question: what are the chances that this Logan Paul injury is a 100% complete fabrication? I'm going to tell you, I smell bullshit. I bought into the whole Logan Paul tore his MCL, ACL, meniscus, every bone and ligament in his leg is torn to shit, but I smell bullshit. I don't like to be the guy that goes every time there's something that appears in the news in pro wrestling and goes, that's a work. It's a work, right? But I smell bullshit. I do smell bullshit because I go back and I watch this match again and I still cannot pinpoint where he tore something in his leg during that match. Guys, when you tear something in your leg, there's visible pain. You don't just get up and walk it off. Now, you can finish a match. There's guys who have torn MCLs and things like that and continued to finish what they were doing, but there's visible pain. And I'm not willing to jump on this idea that not only is Logan Paul some freak athlete who was able to pick up professional wrestling super easy, but he's also a tank that just can't be injured and feels no pain. I'm not willing to buy into that at this point. I smell bullshit. There was no real visible limping or pain or discomfort during that match. He never looked like he was wincing. It always looked like he from the jump off the top to the jump over Roman where he does the splits, I never saw him laboring. I never saw anything like that. And the question that I have that's funny is injuries are always used in pro wrestling. It's nothing new for somebody to come out of a match and fake an injury. So I don't know why this one bothers me. I don't understand why this injury bothers me more than the others, because reality being, if this is just a work, then it works, right? It just adds to the allure of the match. It adds to the allure of Logan Paul, kind of the legacy of Logan Paul. And so I don't know why this bothers me, but I think I'm starting to smell bullshit. We will see in the next coming months. We'll pay attention to really what Logan's doing. I guess we can check in on him on his podcast. You see if he starts teasing any boxing matches or anything like that. He had I think he had some idea of boxing in January. And so we'll see how that goes. It's also a little bit vague when you go, I tore this, and possibly this. Like by now, you probably know what you tore, and we probably should have some kind of injury update, but we don't. So the more and more I really look at this, like he probably fucked up his leg a little bit. It probably was really sore. The doctor probably told him before any x-rays, MRIs, ultrasounds, anything like that. The doctors probably told him, here, look, you might have torn this. You might have sprained this, and you possibly could have torn this. But I feel like at this point in time, we might have got worked on this whole like Logan Paul is legitimately injured thing. Story number 4 here is Pat McAfee, who is currently on hiatus from WWE to do work on College Game Day for ESPN, announced today that he and his wife Samantha are expecting their first child in May of 2023. The couple has been public about their parenthood journey, which has not been easy. They've endured 2 miscarriages began IVF treatment back in July. Samantha knows how difficult the journey can be, but hopes that sharing their story will bring hope to other couples who have traveled the same road. First off, shout out to Pat McAfee for being open about, and his wife Samantha, about being open about this journey that they're going on trying to become parents. Pat has become an important part of WWE. I mean, I think to me, he's integral in like, I thought Wade Barrett was going to be fine to replace Pat McAfee, but the energy on SmackDown is 100% different. Not to say that Wade Barrett doesn't provide his own benefits to being on that announce table, and possibly a 3-man table would be fun, but not having Pat McAfee there has been a letdown for the last couple of weeks and months, or a couple weeks. And I will be excited if he shows back up around January when college football is done. But like I said, I don't have a lot to say about this. This is more just a shout out to Pat McAfee, and prayers and thoughts go to him, and hoping that they have a safe pregnancy and a safe journey. But there's nothing like becoming a parent. To me, it was like the most rewarding thing that ever happened. So I'm happy for Pat, happy for his wife. Hope everything goes well. We'll keep him in our thoughts and prayers, and you know what? Maybe jump on Twitter, give him a shout out, say what's up to Pat, and congratulations. Let's move on to the last story I have for the day, and that is, while on Mac Mania, Wheeler Yuta commented on if he thought AEW was at war with WWE. I can't speak for everyone else, but for me, absolutely not, Yuta said emphatically. We're not trying to take everyone out. We don't have a big war. We're trying to put on the best AEW show possible. And I think that in doing so, we've created an alternative. We've created something different, a whole different vibe, a whole different feel to our show. The more places there are for people to wrestle, the better it is for wrestling, because even if we're not trying, to take them out in a way, we are trying to, like you said, put on our best show. Question. Do you as a wrestling fan actually see AEW as direct competition to WWE? I know that varies. I know certain people do. Certain people will tell you AEW is better than WWE. I tend to fall on the idea of very similar to Wheeler Yuta. It's different. It is a different product. I don't see them as competition. I see them both as needed in the business. I see one as what professional wrestling has always been, a spectacle, and I see the other as more of the sport of professional wrestling. And I think when viewed that way, both companies can flourish. But can we talk about Wheeler Yuta for a minute? Because while we're just throwing around executive vice president titles in AEW, it feels like, hey, you get to be a president, and you get to be a president, and you get to be a president. Why don't we strap one on this smart motherfucker? Like, that was the most well put together statement that I've seen come out of AEW, and it comes from a guy in Wheeler Yuta who I've admittingly not paid attention to. And maybe Wheeler Yuta is the only person in AEW who has taken a public speaking course, because that was the most eloquent way to explain the difference in WWE and AEW that's come out of AEW. This is the attitude that every person in AEW should have, including Tony Khan. Like, if they all would just double down on this Wheeler Yuta attitude, I could buy in. I could 100% view it as a viable alternative to WWE. It is the problem is that they continue to push it as we are competition to WWE. Different product for different fans. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Wheeler Yuta says the more places for guys to wrestle, the better. I agree 100% with that. I like the idea. I even go as far as guys like Mustafa Ali. WWE, if he's a better fit in AEW, let him go to AEW. Guys like Malachi Black, if he's a better fit back in WWE, let him go back to WWE. Let these guys find the home that they're most comfortable in, and we will get a balance, and we will get two balanced, genuine, fun products to watch that are similar but different. Wheeler Yuta just jumped way up on my list of guys that I want to pay attention to. I'm watching AEW for MJF, Jericho, and now Wheeler Yuta is on that list of a guy I want to pay attention to, just because of his intelligence level, just because of his ability to speak and convey a message that clicks with me. As a casual fan, I get it. And I can watch you knowing that you understand what you're doing and you understand what you're the product you're trying to sell to me. Just in a little bit of update to this, I saw before I came on air, Tony Khan tweeted out again that this week's Dynamite is going to be newsworthy. Why can't Tony Khan just let the show speak for itself? Why every week? It's a little bit of a fucking circus. It's comical. Why every week does Tony Khan have to take to Twitter and go, this is the one. This is the one you guys are going to be excited about? Because I pulled up a preview of what's to come tonight, and it's Bryan Danielson versus Sammy Guevara, 2 out of 3 falls. That's great, but that's going to be for the wrestling fans. For the flippy flip wrestling, X's and O's, that's who that's for. That's not going to reach the casual audience. Eddie Kingston versus Ethan Page in a world title eliminator tournament, whatever. I don't know that casual fans are jumping to that. So it's Tony's just playing to his audience. Sure, this is great. The Acclaimed and FTR versus Swerve in Our Glory and the Guns. The Guns not our gun club anymore. But yeah, that's gonna be a fun match. Everybody loves the Acclaimed. Jamie Hayter versus Sky Blue. That's not moving a needle. Britt Breaker and Saraya face off. I will be paying attention to that. That I am very interested in. An MJF promo and a Jon Moxley promo. This just sounds like another day of Dynamite to me. This doesn't sound like anything that's going to, just move the needle in a ridiculous way. So, if we could just, if everybody in AEW could take a note from Wheeler Yuta and just tone it down and let it be what it is, I think that product would thrive, and it would gain a lot more fandom from a casual fan base. Last story that I'm going to update on from yesterday is we talked about yesterday that AEW Fight Forever was going to be coming to Game Pass. A little bit of an update now. AEW comes out and just completely disputes that. They come out and say their game is not going to be on any monthly service or any subscription plan. It is going to be sold straight out. So it's interesting to me when I hear something like this, because I always am of the belief where there's smoke, there's fire. This is a conversation that had to have been had, right? Somebody at THQ Nordic had spoken to Microsoft and said, what are the possibilities? What are the options? How would this work? How does this look? I still believe that AEW, the video game department of it is probably a little worried about the game being outdated and it's not going to be a fresh product that represents what the AEW is right now. So I think that they're going to need to lean into, this is probably a pretty good wrestling video game, so they need to get it into the hands of people to get it played. I still think Game Pass is a great way to do that. You get it into the hands of 25 million people right off the bat, and then you let those people go out and talk about how good of a game it is, and then it maybe catches up from there. But I do like where there's smoke, there's fire with this. At some point, AEW and THQ Nordic had some kind of conversation with Game Pass. This just doesn't arrive out of nowhere. Somewhere somebody said something that struck this idea that this was possibly happening. Other than that, that's about all I have for today. So that's all the time we have for Casual Wrestling Daily. We will pick up where we left off tomorrow. Make sure to tune in every weekday, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Central here on YouTube Live. Make sure to check out the Casual Wrestling Podcast that posts every Friday for your weekend listening enjoyment. And also make sure to check out WWE in Review, the show where I go back and watch old premium live events and pay-per-view matches and rank them on the most notorious casual wrestling match list ever. As always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Hey, Casual Wrestling Community Show. You already know, talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Don't for sure that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, power driver or clothesline. We bringing that heat like the show, but you should